That's all after a second-minute goal from the hosts before Fatawi's fantastic strike to get Leicester level, but it's not enough on this occasion because the full-time score at St Andrews is Birmingham 2, Leicester 1.
2-1 to the hosts. Matt Elliott, how do you assess that 90 minutes?
Tough going today, wasn't it? As it has been many times of late, obviously. Leicester on the wrong end of the scoreline, but a reasonably valiant effort. Just so frustrating, disappointing with for the second week now in succession, sendings off have been the major impact on Leicester's fortunes, really. I wouldn't say the game was done and dusted from that moment on, but you got the feel that, as is naturally enough the case, that it was going to be so much tougher because of that. And then they were up against it. And Leicester are up against enough at the moment right now. They don't need added interventions to make it even more difficult for themselves. And you boys have discussed it at half-time about the sending off and the validity of it or not, as the case may be. But Jerry mentioned about, did that tackle need to be made, and do you put things at risk like that in this situation when so much is in the balance? And ultimately that was the tipping point in today's game in isolation. And the new boys coming in with the transfer window gave a little bit of an input, but ultimately to no avail. And again, it's yet more disappointment for the Foxes.
Yep, Jerry Taggart and Simon Grayson are here in the studio also to assess that game. We've just seen pictures and shots from St Andrews there, the Leicester players going over to the away supporters. Always a good sign to see that, Jerry, at the end of the game. And I guess from a fan point of view watching that today, Leicester did, they gave everything there, didn't they? It was just, being down to 10 men, it was always going to be really difficult, wasn't it, in that second half? And it was always going to be backs to the wall. But it felt like, effort-wise, it was 100% today.
Yeah, I think no one can fault the effort or the commitment. And I say down to 10 men for, a long period of time, half and a quarter, basically, or half and a third, should I say. So you're always up against it when that happens. But the commitment was there, and made a stern challenge. Unfortunately, it just wasn't good enough. The extra men, in the end, for Birmingham, was the difference.
I think when you look at the game, I think it was a bold decision from Andy at half-time to go with the 4-3-2, a different formation, to still take the game to Birmingham as well. We talked about maybe 4-4-1 and just staying in the game, and fair play to him for doing that. And I think when you look at the supporters, it was probably a question I was going to ask Matty actually, what the reaction from the supporters was to the players. Did they have the backing throughout the course of the game? Because from our point of view, it looked like they were running around, they were tackling, they were giving it as good as they could. But ultimately was not an easy against a decent Birmingham team who were trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, Matt, what was that reaction like there at full time? We could see the pictures, we couldn't quite necessarily hear it, or you probably had better viewings of it, but it did seem decent, the reception at the end, Matt. What, from the away supporters? Yeah. Yeah, I think they sort of recognised the effort that was put in, and they also recognise that any negativity from them is only going to have an adverse effect on the players' performance, I think, generally. And, unless it was absolutely pitiful performance and, people were throwing the towel in, the away supporters, I think, will always stand behind the players. And the players recognised that, went up to them. Obviously, they're feeling dejection. They're feeling tired from working and putting in a solid shift, but ultimately to no avail. But yeah, that was the recognition mutually. It seemed relatively positive considering the outcome, the result. But at the end of the day, it's another loss for Leicester, and it's a big blow. And Leicester have had lots of blows of late, but without the sending off,
You know, I think it could well have been a little bit different. Birmingham weren't bad, in fairness. They're quite patient in their build-up, but they're quite precise as well. And you know, without being electric or, you know, scintillating, you know, I thought that reasonably impressed with them. But so they should look quite efficient, really, with that extra man. But even so, before that, I think it would have been a fairly contested game. You know, a relatively attractive game if it had stayed 11v11. So, no option other than to sort of forget about today, really, largely, because Leicester weren't allowed to sort of play they would have set out to for the majority of the game. And just move forward to Tuesday, really. Another opportunity to get this season back on some sort of track.
Yeah, that becomes huge now Tuesday. We'll talk about that in just a moment, Simon. But again, as Matt pointed out, it would have been, you know, it's all ifs and buts, isn't it? But it would have been interesting to have seen the rest of the game play out 11 versus 11, because even when it was 11v11, Leicester had got back into the game. They'd made one mistake that led to the goal. They'd got back into it, and they were no worse, probably not no better at that time than Birmingham, but they were right in the game.
Yeah, they were still in it. 1-1 away from home, half time. You'll take that, wouldn't you? And gives you that opportunity to build off it and see where the game can go to. Sending offs obviously make a huge amount of difference. And look, Birmingham are a decent team. They're in a good, strong position as well. I think what Andy and the players will have to do is make sure that they learn from this experience, not just playing with 10 men, but how they can deal with sort of starting games better, maybe keeping the ball better, asking more questions when it was 11 versus 11. So you've got to learn from every experience, where you win, lose or draw, 10 men or 11 men. And you've got to move quickly on to the next game on Tuesday night, as we mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose when you analyse the beginning of the game, and i.e. the sending off, which basically tipped the game, you know, right at the start of it, and obviously halfway through it, both. So basically, the game was tipped in Birmingham's favour by 2 wrong decisions, and that just shows you that, you know, Matt's gone on about the second goal for Birmingham was well worked. You know, it was patient build up, what have you, but the game swung in Birmingham's favour basically by decision making not being correct. So nothing to do with ability, pace, technical, whatever, tactical know-how. 2 wrong decisions.
Yeah, and
by 2 individuals who are probably among the most experienced players in the team.
And that'll be frustrating, Matt, for a number of reasons, certainly for Andy King and the Leicester City supporters.
Yeah, I mean, Larry will know more than anyone, but I mean, you know, you go through, you work through the week, don't you, as a manager and a coach or a group of players, and you're focusing on the game and you're trying to resolve a situation that you're in and put all your efforts in and focus, and then Ricardo, of all people, although there have been a few chinks in his game of late, but making the sort of error you're not accustomed to him making, and obviously that sets you on the back foot anyway. And as Jerry mentioned, 2 experienced lads who have had key moments in the game in a negative sense. You could overread going in with that challenge, regardless of whether it's technically a red or a yellow, but you know, it was borderline, and Leicester have come off on the rough side of that, and they could overread it. Again, you know, it's not really something you see in his game too often, and ultimately cost Leicester any chance of points, really. And but you get hard knocks in football. Leicester have had more than their fair share of late, it's fair to say, unfortunately. But you have to, you know, I don't know, trying to simplify it, take the rough with the smooth at times. Sometimes it just goes against you. You can't let it affect you as much as some people think it might do, and you just got to hang in there. You got to hang in there and pull together. That's where the likes of Lascelles will come in strong and have a big effect, I think. I thought you saw his, I don't know whether it came across on the screen, but you saw his presence out there today, his influence. and that will only get greater, I imagine. And everyone's got to show a bit of mettle, haven't they? They've got to really show some resolve, because if not, the consequences are pretty dire, and and no one within the club itself would want to see anything like that happen, really. And it's got to be a big effort going forward, but it's got to be done in a controlled way. They can't be reckless and contribute to their own downfall like they have done the last couple of games.
Matty, one of the big positives you mentioned was Lascelles, wasn't it? Getting the minutes into his legs. You can see, we talked about him prior to the game, how his influence, his experience is going to rub off on people like Nelson and the younger players. So that's a positive from it all. What the players have got to make sure that they don't do now is dwell on another defeat. You've got to roll your sleeves up. You either accept the responsibility, don't you, or you just crumble. And nobody at this football club wants to see the players crumble. And
no.
You probably know Kingy a bit more than me. How do you think he will react to sort of today's performance, really?
Yeah, no, exactly. You've got to show that resolve, haven't you? And Lascelles, like you say, he was, I think you saw sort of influence from him. But yeah, the main question there being Andy King. I don't know Andy that well personally, but I know his character, and as a player, we all do. We've seen him through over a long time, many years, and part of his reason for such a successful career was, as well as ability, and there was also like sort of intelligence and perception of situations, and I think he can bring that to his coaching role as well, but also to do what he did as consistently as he did. He's quite a determined character, quite unassuming, but quite dogged, and the way he applies himself, very professional, and he'll have gone through good and bad times, and obviously he learned how to deal with that in adversity. He could always come through and carry on of a level of performance, and hopefully he'll transmit that towards his players. He won't be too perturbed or too panicky about what's happened. I think he'll look at it realistically and assess the reasons for the results, the way they've gone the last couple of games. It's largely down to those red cards. So you can be pragmatic about it genuinely, and help the players have confidence going forward. Because of how he carries himself, but have that genuine belief that they have the quality as well within the ranks. And he's quite a steady head for someone who's been thrown in at the deep end. I've got quite a bit of confidence in him, however long he's at the helm.
It's probably quite a difficult balance for him to try and strike, really, Andy King, Jerry, isn't it? In the position he's in, obviously, as he was, first team coach, he's now coming in, technically still first team coach, but just obviously running the team at the moment. It's a difficult job, isn't it? It's an unenviable task.
But I think is the respect that the players already have for him and everybody else involved at the club. I hope and I expect it's just gone up a notch. And one of the reasons why I say that is by making that brave decision at half-time. Not to go in Larry's preferred 4-4-1, but to go 4-3-2 and say, you know what, lads, I still want to carry that threat going forward, even though it didn't really materialise. I think there was one opportunity where Fatal was breaking through the middle, and Patson Dacker made an inside forward run, and he should have maybe passed it to him instead of, he went round the houses a little bit and had a right-footed shot that ended up just going straight back to Birmingham. But in general, I think the players would respond positively to that half-time team talk, and Andy King saying, right, you know what, we're gonna go for this slightly more than what the usual suspects would do.
I think as well with Andy as well, sort of, he came into a real difficult time being the interim head coach. You'd never in your wildest dreams envisage you can have the first two games you're having 2 red cards as well. It's hard enough job anyway when you've got 11 men for 90 odd minutes per every game anyway. But to be down to 10 men, he's gonna learn a lot about himself and his players, but ultimately he'll be better and stronger for it.
And I'm sure that's something that would have been mentioned after last week's game against Charlton. No to the players. And then so for that to happen again today is like, that's banging your head off against a brick wall scenario for him personally. You know, because the side lightning doesn't strike twice, but unfortunately today it did.
Yeah, and obviously, Matt, that'll mean no Bobby Decordova-Reid for the game on Tuesday against Southampton. Still no Caleb Okoli, of course, because of his red card as well last week. Do you think then maybe one of those two new lads we saw a few glimpses of might play on Tuesday evening? Aribo, again, won't be playing against Southampton, obviously his parent club, so a chance for Mikasa or for Richards potentially to start in that number 10 role. What did you see from those two today, albeit in their brief stint on the pitch?
Yeah, not too much really to comment on, really. They didn't get too many touches on the ball, but welcome additions, both of them, all four of the new recruits. Yeah, definitely just what Leicester need, really. Got a balance there of good experience, as well as a bit of not stardust. We'll have to wait and see how things develop, but high potential with the two youngsters coming in from their respective clubs. So will they get a start on Tuesday? I think off the top of my head, then that's a blow, isn't it? 3 games with Decordova-Reid for such an innocuous challenge. 3 games, it's a big penalty, isn't it? But numbers are sort of, well, not dwindling because there's been additions, but players are getting out of the equation, aren't they? But well, Winks was on the bench today, wasn't he, as well? And he was introduced. I don't know if that's just sort of cautionary with his sort of rehabilitation within the squad. I don't know in terms of minutes, but yeah, I think the two guys coming on, Divine Mukasa and Dujan Richards, they give you that sort of not little tingle in your spine, but you think, right, they're going to have something about them. As much as anything, it's from where they've come from, isn't it? Because I haven't seen too much of them, but yeah, Richards looks like he had a bit of a physical presence, quite pacey as well. Not that he was really given any opportunities to show that, but probably not starting the week. I don't know. Richards might. Mukasa might need perhaps in midfield. That's my Saturday evening stage name, Divine Mukasa. But that's another story altogether.
We don't need to know about that, mate.
We've done well, Matt. Well, we came on here at 2:30, and I thought we just about got away with, apart from you saying an oasis of space at one point during the game, Matt, which I thought was.
Is that a contradiction to itself?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a thing, actually.
I'll tell you now, mate. The gallery were battering you.
You know what I meant, though, lads, didn't you? But anyway.
Oh, we knew, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're used to my waffle, but. Yeah, it seems very early to be looking ahead to Tuesday right now, but unfortunately that's what you've got to do, isn't it? That's what you've got to do. But they've got to show, just dust themselves down. We've said that many a time before. Easier said than done, because it hurts right now. Any loss hurts. And then because the defeats have been piling up a little bit, and that air of negativity, but can develop, but Leicester can't afford for that to happen. And hopefully the introduction of the new boys in conjunction with Andy King, having his effect on things, and the players' natural pride and individual determination can hopefully carry through from Leicester from Tuesday onwards.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of positivity there from Matt. Jerry, can you finish us off with some more positivity heading into Tuesday?
Yeah, as I said, So there's some games that you lose, and you look back and you analyse and you pull the game to pieces because a lot of things didn't go wrong, or players weren't doing this right or that right. This wasn't one of them games, in my opinion. Yes, it's obviously disappointing and frustrating with what happened, and there's a few issues, but in the main, that's where Andy King will start and say, listen, good performance, down to 10 men, held out, limited to 1 or 2 chances in the second half, and obviously one of them went in the back of the net. Let's pick ourselves up and move on.
Yeah, I like it, Jerry. Some positivity from you both there at the end. Thank you for that. Of course, that game on Tuesday will be available with us on Fox's Hub, as every game in the Championship is this season. It is an evening kickoff, isn't it? Yeah, it's 7:45 on Tuesday evening. That means we'll be live with Matchday Live from 7:15. There are your international game passes available, as well as Listen Live monthly passes as well for you. They're all the ways that you can follow the action with us on Tuesday. Thank you to Matt, safe travels back from Birmingham, mate. Thank you to Simon, thank you to Jerry for their company today on what again is unfortunately ended in defeat for the Foxes. Birmingham 2, Leicester 1. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Goodbye.